Welcome back, Better Everyday podcast listeners. I'm your host, Brad Weems. We're live here from Market Street Media. We are here with our first repeat guest on the Better Everyday podcast with my friend and training partner, Tyler Minton. Tyler, for those of you that may be listening and don't know you, give our listeners the 2 to 3 minute rundown of who you are, what you do, and anything else you might want to share with them.
Yeah, wow, 2 minutes.
Tentatively.
Yeah, so I do the nutrition for a lot of a large population of the UFC athletes, Bellator athletes, and I work with the general population too. I was a former professional fighter myself, and all while I was going to school for nutrition and dietetics, finished a bachelor's degree, and then kept pursuing my own career as a professional mixed martial artist. And I took an injury, and during my time off, I started helping some other people out with nutrition, and I started getting hired by more and more athletes, and then it started being big names in the UFC. So the business kind of took off by accident, and I haven't fought since. But I'm constantly busy helping other people in the sport, so it's been real fun.
I would think it'd be a little bit easier to talk nutrition with people versus all the training that goes into fighting, getting punched in the face, and the stress on the body.
I miss it. I miss fighting, but this allows me to still be in the world and to help with issues that I always saw. My own issues and other fighters. It allows me to help from I have their perspective. I've been there and done that, so I'm not just an outsider coming in and telling them what makes sense.
It's very much like you see the NFL players. They retire because the load it is on their body, and then they go into commentating.
Yeah.
So you're still in the business, but not going through all the physical demands necessarily.
Yeah, and that helps so much because, as anyone who's tried to follow a diet can tell you, there's so much psychology with it. And when you mix in the need to cut weight, the need, the million other psychological roadblocks with fighting, the world's best expert in nutrition, if they have never been there and done that, they're just going to miss the boat. They're not going to understand how to apply that. So that's an advantage that I have over a lot of people in the industry.
No doubt. We wanted to bring you back on today because it's January. We're right in the middle of New Year's resolutions for everybody. I've been looking at your social media on Instagram, and a lot of this stuff that I'm going to bring up and ask you today come from that Instagram page, and just maybe going a little more in depth versus just the screenshots or slides that you have up. So one of the things you had, it says, let's form new habits in 2021 versus forming New Year's resolutions. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so actually, since this was Inauguration Day, I thought I was coming here to talk politics, but we'll talk about something more offensive and talk about nutrition. No, seriously though, it's this is the resolution time, and I make them too. I mean, I have I refuse to call them resolutions because they're goals. And I tell people, I'm like, listen, like, I want to lose 50 pounds. Oh, that's great, but that's just a phrase. Like, that doesn't mean anything. Give me a list of the things you want to do. And I did this with a lot of my clients this year. Don't tell me what you want to achieve this year and just leave it there. Don't just say, okay, I want to lose X amount of pounds. Say, hey, I'm going to do this, and this is going to let me lose 50 pounds. So, you have to look at the habits you have that are blocking that goal and the habits that you need to have to reach that goal, and just focus on those. Don't focus on the end game. So instead of, okay, I'm going to lose 50 pounds, that's my resolution. Make your resolution. I'm going to go to the gym 3, 4, 5 times a week. I'm going to walk 10,000 steps a day. I'm going to eliminate all liquid calories, and I'm going to follow a diet 6 out of 7 days a week.
It's very much like the phrase you hear. Resolutions are like goals without a plan are basically just a wish.
Yeah.
So it's the habits you're talking about to get to the end goal, which is resolutions for some people.
Yeah. I've never seen anyone, like with my own clients and anything. I've never seen anyone have this goal and a big weight loss goal and ever reach it without putting more effort into the process to get there. Right. I mean, losing 50 pounds, if you have a lot of weight to lose, losing weight's easy. People don't think it is. Like, losing weight is truly like the easiest. This sounds really weird, but the actual weight loss portion is the easiest part of weight loss. It's all the stuff that comes with it. Calories in versus calories out is weight loss. Okay, so if it was that simple, everyone right now could be like, okay, I'm just going to eat a little bit less and do a little bit more, and I'm going to lose weight. Everyone would be lean if that was easy. That's not easy, but it's not easy because our lifestyles and again the psychological components and hormones, recovery. There's a million other things that you have to address that's going to make calories in versus calories out a tangible goal. And you just can't do those without putting in the habits to reach that goal.
Another kind of hot take that you had on your Instagram, it was talking about the best diet of 2021. Let's talk about that one.
Yeah, so the one you can complete to 2022.
Yeah, and I know you're getting ready to say carnivore.
Yeah. Oh gosh. It's the best diet you can maintain for 3 weeks would be carnivore. So yeah, I mean that's the thing. If you're taking on some way of eating and you don't look at this and say like, hey, I can't maintain this for a year, it's not going to work. Like it's just not going to work long term. I'm not saying you have to have the same level of strictness for a year. I'm not saying that, but meaning you see this lifestyle, you start following a diet plan. You're like, yeah, these are the kinds of foods I could easily eat for the rest of my life. I could easily, you know, I could easily eat these amounts. I could do this stuff. I'm a big fan of weighing and measuring, and I have a lot of my clients do that. But that doesn't mean they need to weigh and measure for the rest of their life or even the rest of the year. I don't need them to do that, all the time. I need them to get used to that so they can start to eyeball a plate and see what a proper serving size looks like. A lot of us have no idea what an actual serving of these foods are, and what that looks like. So, I've never really had someone look at one of my structures, my meal plans, and say like, hey, I could never maintain this for the rest of my life. Well, you could. Number one, there's so much, it's not exclusive of food groups. I'm not telling you can't eat grains. I'm not telling you can't eat dairy. I'm not saying you can't do these things. I'm literally allowing you to do those things. All I'm saying is you just might have to limit them. And that's sustainability is what's going to work long term. That's why I don't like, we do something at the gym, the 8 week, we use the word challenge, but it's more of a lifestyle change. It's a 8 week, really like installing new habits. We focus on water and steps and following a plan and gym attendance, those things that we were talking about that create the habits to last long term. But these 30-day challenges, and I've done them before. When I owned a gym, we used to do these 30-day challenges, and I just quit doing them because I hated it. I would hear people talk about, the challenge starts on Saturday, so Friday we're going to go all you can eat pizza. And then by the end of the first week, they're already talking about what they're going to do, what they're going to eat on day 31. I'm like, well, that's a failed challenge. It doesn't, you're literally testing someone's ability to do something for 30 days. That doesn't actually mean anything in the long term, in terms of success.
So really ironic, before you and I came downtown here, I had a member freewheelingly come up to me, and they were talking about, it was one of the people from your most recent challenge, and they said, I didn't necessarily put in the work during the last challenge, but I meant to tell you, a lot of the things that Tyler made me aware of during that 8 weeks, I'm still applying those today. And that's what you want ultimately. Cool. That goes back to the whole 2021 best diet.
Yeah, and again, I don't, and I educate people as I go. So I work on like say if you're working with me as a private client, my goal is not to have you full time. Like if I don't hear from you, I do weekly check-ins, and if I haven't heard from you in a while, I'm not interested in just billing you. Like I'm constantly like, hey, what's going on here? You haven't checked in. Does this mean you're out, or is there a communication gap? Like I want people to succeed, so I'm constantly educating them as we go because I don't want them. I don't want them to need me long term. If they need me long term, they're not going to. Something happens. Everyone. I quote him a lot. He's my best friend and mentor, James Krause. But he told me something when I owned a gym probably about 6-7 years ago, and it hurt my feelings. And it took me years to get to the point. Like I totally understand that, and it's okay. And he said everyone leaves. He said literally every single person is going to leave you one day. I was like, well, I have some really loyal members. He goes, yeah, but you're going to sell the gym one day, maybe. I ended up selling the gym. He goes, you're going to sell the gym. He said they're going to have an injury. They're going to move. They're going to pass away. He said it's absolutely silly and absurd to think that every single member and to treat it like you're going to have all these members and all these clients, in the nutrition realm for the rest of their life. He goes, and if you do, like, you need to restructure the way you're doing things. In nutrition, again, like, I don't want someone long term, because that means they never learned anything and they couldn't take that on and just accomplish that themselves.
It's totally the teaching someone how to fish versus giving them the fish.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I don't want them to I don't want them to need me, because I want them to go off and be like, hey, this is what I've done with this guy, and tell someone else about it, and then they tell someone, and that person starts with me. And the way I see it, that just creates a cycle of people who are going out and talking good about my business and who are helping other people. I can't tell you how many times I've seen, it's pretty cool, someone I've worked with and I no longer work with them, and they're starting to actually, like, do nutrition now and helping people with it.
Mm-hmm.
And, some people, like, it might, like, offend them or get jealous, but I think it's cool. I mean, as long as they're living by my principle when it comes to coaching and of any kind, and
Right.
that's do no harm.
Right.
If I see them putting out good advice, then I love that. 'Cause
Yeah,
I know that I was a part of everyone that they're going to reach.
You were the Yoda to the Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, exactly. I like to, I like to think that just extends, my branch.
Yeah. Well, to keep moving on, let's talk about the importance of self-awareness when it comes to making change.
Whew, this is where I said it gets more offensive than politics. Self-awareness is it's literally the one thing that stops most people from getting where they need to be. And I mean, I don't know the exact the exact percentages. Actually, this isn't improper. I actually want to quote this directly, so
Yeah, take your time.
I'm going to
If it's
find this
values-
exact.
If it's
I
value to
save
the
it.
listeners.
Because if I see a statistic, a research statistic, and I enjoy it and I like it, then it's something I always save. Okay, so people underreport calories by 47% and overestimate expenditure by 51%. So these are people that are actually that they're going to start a diet, and they start writing things down. They start actually tracking these things. They're literally underreporting the amount of calories they eat by 47%, which means they're essentially eating 47% more calories than they ever put, and they're overestimating how many calories they burn a day by 51%. I mean, and a lot of that just comes from they're not self-aware. They're not understanding the things they're doing. And this comes from, like, physical, tangible self-awareness, and then we'll get into subconscious and all that. But they're doing things like spreading the peanut butter on the rice cake and then taking a bite of peanut butter before they put the spoon up. Little things like that, and those calories start to add up. They're adding creamer here and there, not thinking it's a big deal. They're just doing all these little things. They're weighing a gram or two over on every single thing. These little things that by the end of the day have accounted for several hundred extra calories. Or they're, let's say in the CrossFit room, they're a CrossFitter. They're coming into the gym 4 days a week. The CrossFit workouts are intense. But, I mean, what portion of the hour they're there is actually intense? 10, 15, 20 minutes, which is great. I mean, that's ideal. And then they go home and they're sitting. So it's like, in the grand scheme of the amount of calories you burn that day, that's not a lot. That's why I'm such a big fan of the hit 10,000 steps a day. I don't care what else you're doing. 10,000 steps a day on top of everything else you're doing, even on your rest days, because that's ensuring you're actually getting those calories going all day. But if you're someone who's going to the gym, you're working hard, and I see it, and I'm not talking down on this, but I see them posting a picture of their watch or something, how many calories they burn. I'm like, in the grand scheme, that's not that doesn't equate to much if you're not burning those calories throughout the day. And that becomes the physical self-awareness, and then just the mental aspect, self-awareness. People just don't know. I'm trying to think how to tiptoe it around a bit. Some people just don't actually know. They have unrealistic expectations of themselves or unrealistic expectations of what they're doing. When I owned a gym, and I would have people come in and be like, hey, I want to be a CrossFit Games champion. I'm like, okay, so let's sit down and discuss this. And do you want my input? I can think of two specific times this happened. And by the end of 5 minutes, I felt a little bad because I pretty much just told him it can't happen. But it wasn't that. It was just because we talked about the habits that it would take, to get to that point, and it just wasn't habits they were ever going to be able to do. And to do that, it would mean creating relationship damage. I mean, creating business, like hurting their business, hurting their personal life, all these other things. It's just not worth it. And they just had an unrealistic goal. And I think a lot of us have that. I talk a lot about performance versus looks. I get people, all the time that they're focusing on they want one, but they're focusing on the other. They're more focused about their time on a workout or their this, and you need to focus on that. But their goal is all looks based. I'm like, well, sometimes you're going to underperform if the goal is looks. That's okay. It's not a big deal. Don't get hung up about that. Or they have a performance based goal and they're weighing every single day and they're freaking out what the scale says. Um, it just doesn't equal out. Like if your performance is getting better and the scale says you gained weight, who freaking cares? I've been talking about this a lot lately because I get asked it a lot. It's like, well, why is Daniel Cormier a big guy? Like, why doesn't he have abs or why does he have a belly? I'm like, who cares? He's worth tens of millions of dollars. Like, does it matter? I mean, and he's done that with the body he has. He's a high performing athlete at heavyweight and light heavyweight with that body. So why does it matter? If he was getting paid that kind of money to be a swimsuit model, well, then we would worry about how he looks.
Right.
And that's the self awareness people just lack, and they sometimes have a they think they're doing more than they actually are, and then they have just unrealistic goals. And I believe the shoot for the shoot for the stars or whatever. I get that, but you still need to be realistic and set those small goals and tangible goals, because the biggest shot to someone's ego is to just set goals that you never get. I remember, like in talking with other coaches and stuff, one thing coaches will do during a fight camp, it's a really good strategy. A lot of coaches do. If you have a fighter who say they're cutting weight and doing all this stuff and they're sparring for, they have 8, 10, 12 weeks camp. Well, by the end of the camp, they're a little depleted. They're starting to feel a little funky. You don't throw them in there with, your three best guys who are just fresh, because they're going to get their butt kicked often, and they have to fight the next week, and they just go into fight week mentally just destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
So what a good coach often does is they manage their rounds where they might have a tough guy, then 2 or 3 easy guys, or they pick a training partner who they know is going to just kind of pick them up a little bit, and they just give them that emotional edge so they can hit that, going into fight week knowing that they just had a really good week before that. So I mean, I just think having reasonable, tangible goals is going to do a lot more than these people who just have crazy goals. They're just not going to do what it takes to get there. And to extend this, I know I'm talking about this one a lot, but it's just a huge, huge thing. A lot of times I think people, they also don't have a realistic look of roadblocks. Like they don't have a realistic they're the things that they're saying, their excuses they're making aren't really things. Like they're not really there. It's like, well, I've got this, I do have kids. I'm like, okay. Like everyone, like almost every fit person has kids. Almost every high performing athlete has kids. I totally understand that they also have nannies and they have this and that. But I'm also telling you, you don't have to reach their level. I'm just saying be better than you are. Like we start to think of all these excuses we have. I have a really busy job. It's really hard for me to eat healthy. But is it impossible for you to eat healthy, or is it hard for you to eat healthy? Like people just start thinking of all these things that are going to keep them from their goal, and it's like that's silly. It's just not true. I mean, it's.
And then we haven't even discussed genetics, but we want to open that can.
Yeah, I mean, genetics do play a factor. They play they play a very small factor in certain things, but genetics might play a factor in why your lower 2 abs don't stick out, but they don't play a factor in why you can't be lean. I mean, it's just people put way too much on genetics, and it's just not true. They're if you've eaten like garbage for 20 years, and now you're well, say 30 years, you're 30 years old, and now you're like, well, I look this way because I just have really bad genetics. I'm like, no, like that's not. You can't blame your parents for that. Like I promise you, my genetics aren't very good at all. And growing up, I was a very overweight kid. But then at some point, I was able to control the narrative. I was the one who was in control of how many times a day I worked out. I was the one in control of the food that I ate, the the habits I chose. So now, by that definition, I look like someone might think has really good genetics, and I don't. I just
Put in the work.
yeah, I hate the genetic argument.
I shouldn't open that can of
No,
worms. So, um, I do want to get a listener question real quick before we move on. We had someone ask, how does creatine work? I know creatine's your favorite supplement of all time. They also want to know, when is the best time to take it, and why do you recommend? What do you recommend for soreness?
yeah, I mean it increases ATP energy, and I mean what this does, creatine actually makes your muscles work stronger and longer. I mean it seems like one of those too good to be true things, but it really isn't. Now there are some people who don't respond well to it. I'm fortunate in I am a like really good creatine responder. The difference when I'm taking it and not is significant, and I can tell a difference in my muscular endurance and my strength. Not everyone is as sensitive to it though, so you just have to see for yourself and consistently take it. The most of the studies that have shown positive results are going to be at 5 grams a day, and with that, women can get by with 2 to 3, but you don't have to load. Loading will, help it. You'll see that they all say you can load, you can do extra for X amount of days.
And for the listener, what does loading mean?
Just doing a lot more creatine for the first week or two, or they all different brands have different recommendations, and this just like really saturates it. It really gets it in there. You don't have to do that though. You can just take your time with it and do 5 a day, but you really just need to do 2 to 5 a day every day, the same time every day. It doesn't matter. There for the longest time, I was forgetting to do it after workout. I do it after workout now just because, again, it's easy for me then. But used to, for some reason, I just kept forgetting it. So I just started doing it in the morning and mixing it with my coffee. I just kept it next to my coffee. That way I did it every day. You don't have to do it at a specific time. Just do it the same time every day.
Cool. So, um, what do you recommend for soreness? Will creatine help with soreness?
Yeah, but ultimately there's a lot of different things that can cause soreness. If it's just like constant DOMS, delayed onset muscle soreness, if it's just constantly happening and it's not, like first you have to look at, well, do I have terrible form? I mean, if you have terrible form in a movement and your shoulder's hurting,
That's
my
not muscle
best,
breakdown.
yeah,
Period.
that's not muscle breakdown. That's just you shouldn't be doing kipping pull-ups or something. Like you should step back from this movement for a little bit and then determine what you could do to improve that. But if we're just talking about you just constantly seem to feel like you have sore muscles, it's a nutrition thing. Um, if you're not eating healthy, eat healthy. I mean, if you're eating a lot of inflammatory processed foods, sugars and things like this, then let's dial back your inflammatory foods. If you are eating healthy, which I see severe soreness issues in people that are eating extremely healthy because they're overdoing it. They've cut their carbs really low, and they need to up those carbs. So it just depends. If you're eating a lot of inflammatory foods, cut those out. If you're eating healthy, you're probably just not eating enough protein or carbohydrates, and probably both.
Cool. Cool. Jen, thanks for the question. Listeners, I'm going to go back to a pre-scripted list that I had, but feel free to keep shooting them over, and I'll interject them if they come through. Tyler, you had a post I was really intrigued about a while back. I know you always preach calories in versus calories out when it comes to weight loss, but you had one post that said how not eating enough could actually be hindering you from losing weight. Can we elaborate a little more on that?
Yeah, it all still will go back to calories in versus calories out. And this is one thing I've vowed. This was one of my resolutions for 2021 was to not talk so much purely about calories in versus calories out, like at the base level, but talk about the things that might make that hard. Because no matter what, you cannot. You can argue it, but not intelligently. You cannot argue calories in versus calories out. It always drives back to that. But there's a million things that make that harder to achieve. And if you're someone who's been extreme dieting for a long time and you've just been at this calorie deficit for so long, a lot of times what's happened is they've destroyed their metabolism. So their metabolism is down. We wouldn't say destroyed. They've down regulated it. So now they're burning less calories than they should per day. So the deficit that was working, it's no longer working, because if this is calories in and this is calories out, if you keep your calories in so low for so long a time, your calories out start doing this, even if you're doing the same amount of work, because your metabolism's just not what it used to be. So then to achieve the same results, you got to keep driving those calories down, and that's horrible for you, and it doesn't work. I mean, you have to eat enough food to survive. So what you generally have to do is bring those calories in back up. Yes, you're going to gain some weight, but eventually, what you're going to do, if we keep adding calories, you're going to find this range that you just kind of float at. And what's that? The whole goal of that is to set a new level of what that deficit could be. So again, I hate to do little models like this, but if we have calories out and calories in, and they look like this, and we've stayed here for so long, this starts going down. Well, now we raise this, and this is going to happen, but then eventually this starts happening again. And then once we see that, then we can get a lot better weight loss with much less deficit. So you're going to be a lot healthier in the long run. So that's just one of those things. It still goes back to calories in versus calories out. But if you've been doing that, you've done some things to negatively impact your ability to reach the caloric output you should be.
So you've worked with roughly 50 members at the gym now,
Wow.
and I would say I have a knowledge base of nutrition that may be better than 85, 90% of the population. But uh, when you give me my nutrition plan, and this is the one thing I hear from all the members as well, is it was almost too much food. It felt like it was just, it was. I remember texting you and asking, "Do I have to eat all this?"
Yeah.
And that's been the consensus with this most recent group. But what I was gonna say is like so many people think that when I start working with Tyler, it's going to be a piece of chicken, 4 sticks of celery, and 6 almonds. But let's just talk about like I think you had me at 2,400 calories. Like, how does it make sense that someone could feel so full and almost feel like they're eating so much, but then still have amazing results from it?
Because the food volume is not always related to the calorie content of the food. If I weigh a Snickers bar or I weigh potatoes, I mean the potatoes are going to have more volume and much less calories than that Snickers bar. And a lot of that is just the psychology of it. You're eating so much food, so it starts to freak you out a little bit. But I actually like to hear people saying that. They're like, oh, man, I can't eat this much. I'm like, all right, well, let's eat a little bit of all of it. Let's do our best, or at least let's hit our protein. Let's do the protein. Then if you can't get all the carbs, no big deal. But that just shows me that we're kind of rewiring the way they think. And that's one reason I do it that way. I choose very high volume, low calorie foods because I want to retrain their minds to understand that like what full feels like. Because these hyper palatable foods that taste great and are low volume are designed to make us to not make us full. So we want more and then we eat more. And that's how we end up overeating so easily. So a lot of people never really feel what full feels like. They don't know what full feels like because they're eating these highly palatable, highly processed foods, and they just keep eating more. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Have you ever? Let's try to eat a 20-ounce steak or a bag of chips. The steak is going to fill you up a lot more. Those chips, if you wanted to, you're just going to keep eating them. You're never really going to feel full.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just again that goes with the volume versus calorie density. And I love that because you really can eat a lot of food if it's the right kinds of food. You should if you have a diet that I mean, if even feeling hungry on a diet is okay. I mean that's actually a lot of times your body just signaling that your metabolism is working in a good direction. But you should just not be if you're looking at your plate and it's just this crazy small portions. You're probably way underdoing it. You're probably or way overdoing it, and way undereating.
Gotcha. So I feel like the word protein has this stigma attached to it that you think like um, bodybuilder meathead. I feel like I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the protein shake aspect or what, but why should the 40-year-old sedentary individual at home worry about their protein intake?
Yeah, it's that goes back to the whole. We see it all the time. Like, well, I don't want to be bulky. I'm like, okay. Like I promise you, if I can make one little thing and all of a sudden make you bulky, I would constantly do that thing for every guy because
You,
every guy wants that.
you'd
The
be a
the thing,
multi-millionaire.
yes, everything that a lot of the women clients that start with me and some of their goals, like, hey, I don't want to put on a lot of muscle, I don't want to do this. I'm like, I totally understand that, but if it was that easy, like every guy would achieve that. And look around you, every guy does not look like that, even if they wanted to. If it was just a simple one macro change, we'd all look like Arnold. But it's just not. So protein, and it actually becomes more important as you age. And I would say, I would say that is the biggest thing that I see lacking, really in everyone's diet, most people's, but women, most of my female clients, that's the one single biggest change that I make, and older clients. Protein, the thermic effect of protein, meaning how many calories it actually takes to burn protein, is exponentially higher than carbohydrates and fat. So it is one of those things. Usually it's BS anytime you hear something like, hey, this is a fat burning food. Eating this is going to make you, I've heard celery called a fat burning food because it takes more calories or it's negative calories is what they'll say. It takes more calories to burn. Most of that stuff's garbage, or they say this is a metabolism burning supplement. It's not true. But eating protein literally is going to ramp up your metabolism because it does require more of a metabolic response than eating carbohydrates and fat. So it becomes that thing that a calorie deficit is enough to lose weight, but making sure that you're eating a calorie deficit with adequate levels of protein, it's going to increase that calorie output. It's going to help bump that up, which is really our goal. And it's increasing your calorie output without you actually having to work to increase it. There's a thing called protein sweats that people who have ate a really low protein diet for a long time, they start eating protein and they notice like they're sweating in the middle of the night. And it's literally because it's raising the temperature. It's doing these things because your body has to do a lot to burn it. And again, it plays a large role in increasing muscle density. If you're a female, increasing muscle density is a very, very important thing for you because that inherently and also will increase bone density, which is something that is a prize that you don't even know you're after, but you should be.
So two things right there. First one, you're telling me I could eat 300 calories worth of protein, and through digestion of protein, it would only account for maybe, 240?
I have to pull my calculator.
I mean,
but
just in
but
general.
that's my point.
Yeah,
That's the point.
that's the bang of the buck. Whereas if I eat Doritos,
Exactly. So eating protein, you're literally burning more calories by eating protein than you are eating carbohydrates or fat.
Gotcha.
So it's a very low hanging fruit for increasing your calorie output.
And what's the statistic? What, at the age of 40, we lose 1% lean muscle tissue a year? Is that correct?
I believe it is one.
Something like that, and you can basically sustain that by working out, 2 to 3 times a week strength training?
Yes, and that is, I understand that statistic's going to be with the average common person who maybe didn't have a lot to begin with and all that. So yeah.
And protein's only going to help with that.
Yeah.
And the prevention of losing lean muscle tissue.
Yeah, I mean, which is again ultimately what everyone. It's going to lead to everything people want and don't even always know they want. Like it's going to the lean look. The people think bulky, but no, this is going to help you look lean. It's almost everyone who wants to lose weight. It's not even the fact that they want to lose weight. It's that they want to look lean, and that's going to get you there.
Yeah, you look at someone and you're not like, hey, I bet you weigh 206 pounds. You look at someone like, oh man, your arms look good. You're lean. You're showing abs. Ultimately the scale is our barometer for seeing success when it comes to anatomical change, but it is what we look like that really matters.
Yeah, it's just a data point. And there's some people they genuinely might have that goal, but for me, if I could just snap my fingers and magically look one way, I'm going to look a lot more like The Rock than I am Steve Prefontaine or some famous long distance runner who's only had to focus on performance to get there, and the aesthetics aren't something that someone like that's considering.
Right.
So
it goes back to that meme or picture you see forever ago, the body of like a sprinter in the Olympics versus like an endurance athlete.
Yeah. It's just what's your goal. If it's an aesthetic goal, the person you want to look like probably weighs more than you think because they have some good muscle mass.
Yeah.
With women, that's a trick I've done many times. I would say, okay, pick someone, give me an actress or a model or a CrossFitter that has a body that's reasonable. You know, if you're 5'2", don't tell me someone who's 5'8". Find someone around your same height and stuff like this, and who you think looks great, and tell me how much you think they weigh. And they always say like maybe 120. Now they're like 150. You can look up these people's weights, and they always weigh so much more than a lot of these young ladies think, because they just they see that they're lean and trim, and they think that just means that they're also light, and that's just not the truth.
Is that the whole muscle weighs more than fat?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
really, it's one of those things that
Is that a true statement, or is that?
I mean, if you think about it, a pound of the one thing too, I've asked people what weighs more, a pound of fat or a pound of muscle?
Both
A
a pound.
But yes, because it is going to be more dense, and you got to think that muscle holds water, fat doesn't. So like you're talking about if you have X surface area of muscle versus X surface area of fat, then yeah.
Listeners, Google 5 pounds of fat versus 5 pounds of muscle. There's these pictures that will pop up and show you the
It's
difference.
pretty wild stuff. I used to have the models too,
Did
like
you?
actually models of them.
That's all I had for you as far as nutrition questions. Is there anything you want to talk about that I missed out on?
Man, I could talk about a million things, but I do think, again, I know anytime I even say politics, like I can see you all cringing. But no, I love election years and stuff. I genuinely do, because it brings out it brings out strengths and weaknesses. It really does in the mindset. I'm not going to talk about who I wanted to win, who I wanted to lose. It ultimately, like I dislike most of them, but I can find something I like in all of them. But I tell people constantly, like, the mindset you need to have is that no matter what possibly happens, you're not going to let it bother you. And I understand that if you feel like one's going to oppress you for one reason or other, I'm not talking about that. But I'm talking about that anytime you see an election year, one party is going to swear that the other party, and it doesn't matter, they both do this, is just going to crush the economy. Everyone's going to be, killing each other for work and this and that. And you just see this horrible mindset of, well, so and so is going to do this, so and so. I'm like, it's just such a loser mindset. It really is. And I'm not saying you're a loser. I'm saying you have the mindset that creates loss. I was having a talk with, it is a good friend of mine the other day who was very adamant that they're afraid, they're anti-immigration, and not illegal immigration. They're anti-legal immigration. And what this person told me was, hang on, I promise this doesn't hurt. It's nothing. What this person told me was like, well, I don't want legal immigrants either, because I don't want them to come in and take jobs that should be my job and this and that. And I'm like, do you listen to what you just said? As a grown man, you are admitting that there is someone out there who can come in and take your job from you. Meaning you are admitting that there is a human being out there who you think can outwork you. I'm like, I would never, as a man, I would never admit that. And I can't admit that, because I said this years ago in an interview before a fight, and it's the one lesson I put it in we have a baby book for Ronan.
Uh-huh.
And I put this in there because it's the one quote and the one belief system I want to pass on to my boys. And it's that I will always be the hardest worker in the room, and I will always surround myself with people who refuse to let me be. Like, if there's a group of 20 people out there, immigrant, I don't care, legal, illegal, I don't care who these people are. If there's a group of 20 people out there who could possibly outwork me, I want to be in the same room as them, because that's going to make me try to outwork them. Mm-hmm. And that mindset, it's not even a political statement. It's just, if that is your biggest fear, if your biggest fear is of any genre or classification of people coming in and actually outworking you, you really have to look in the mirror and first you need to uppercut yourself, but then you need to look at the mirror and start challenging yourself. I mean, that's just such a, again, it's just a loser mindset. And if you've ever, a lot of people have read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's a great book. It really is. And he talks about Rich Dad telling him, like, the poor work for money, the rich make their money work for them. And it's just the truth. I mean, that really is the truth. And I'm not rich by any means, but I have no tolerance for someone who's going to talk about, like not having the choice of things. I mean, my story, I literally had $2,000 to my name. And that is combining everything I had at, I guess, age 22 or age 23. I only had $2,000. And I took that $2,000. I went and bought a bunch of gym equipment. Actually, it wasn't a bunch. I say a bunch. It was like 2 squat racks. I bought used gym equipment. I filled basketballs with sand and duct taped them. I had literally homemade welded kettlebells, um, ropes, chains, and I didn't even have money for rent. But then I went and found a place that happened to be, I think it was like $2,500 a month rent. I didn't have $2,500, so I just spent it all on that. But I'm like, no, I'm gonna pay rent first month. And I'm not saying this is the best business decision, but I said, no, I'm just gonna get enough members. I just had that faith. So I go out, I create a gym. By the first month, I already had enough to pay rent. But I also knew that, well, now I don't have a place to live because I was also going to be out on my own at that month. So by month 2 of the gym, I was, this place has an attic. It's not the ideal living situation, but I'm going to do it. So I literally moved into the upstairs of my gym. I had no heat, no air, no windows, and I lived there for 2 years. Every dime the gym made, and again, this is a $2,000 facility, every dime the gym made, I put back into the gym. I bought more equipment and more things and just kept doing that. Well, the only money I had that I was living off of was the money I was making from fights as a professional fighter. And anyone who knows how much money a professional fighter at the new level makes, I mean, it's a couple grand a fight, maybe, and you only fight a few times a year. And Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I was bouncing. So I was literally going to a club and bouncing from like 9 or 10 to 3 o'clock in the morning. After I had already worked from 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. at my gym, and then I went and trained MMA from 5:30 to 8 every night. So I mean, I was doing all this just to survive. And eventually, I was able to sell the gym, make a really good profit. Then I reinvested all that money, and it's just one of these.
I don't know if you listened to Tim's podcast last week, but
it was good.
Iron sharpens iron.
Yep.
Anybody that wants to work hard, why would you not want to be around people that also want to work hard?
Exactly.
You can't be scared of individuals that could possibly outwork you. Put yourself around them. Everybody gets better.
Yes.
And like going back and like talking about your story and like, getting this gym going and whatnot. The one thing I look back and think to myself is you knew I was going to be a competitor and you still would let me come over and work out at your place.
Oh yeah. I didn't care. And honestly, just to be point blank with you, because I didn't worry about it. Like I didn't.
Yeah.
I remember we were the first, and I remember when all these other gyms started coming to town, they had nicer equipment and just all this stuff. They put money towards branding, and I didn't have any of that. I had members like, well, are you worried? I'm like, well, no, they're not going to outwork me. Like, I don't care. Like, and if they did, great, because then I'm just going to work harder.
But no offense, I think the same thing to myself.
Exactly.
He's not going to outwork me. But look, here we are.
And everyone succeeds.
Yep.
That's the way to do it. You don't have to have Walgreens doesn't care if CVS comes across the road. I mean, like Burger King doesn't care if a McDonald's goes across, because they have their customers. McDonald's has their customers, and they're doing everything. They're all doing everything they should do. And it's just that mentality of like, well, this person's going to come in and take this from, then don't let them. Like, what are you, like, it's just not, it's maybe I'm not looking at it wrong, or not looking at it correctly, but I just do not have it in my system to think that anyone can come in and take my job. And if they do, I'm going to take that same work ethic and apply that to something else and go take someone else's job. It's just the mindset that I think that we get into every election year. We start thinking about all the negatives and stuff, and it depends on who you talk to, but someone tells you it's the end of the world every single election year. If you took everyone's word for it, every 4 years we're all dying. So number one, just block those people out of your life, and then it just brings out these mindsets that I just can't I can't relate to. And again, iron sharpens iron. You have to surround yourself with other people. Like none of my like financially successful friends, my investors, my millionaire clients, my millionaire friends, all self-made. None of these people are worried whatsoever. Like they don't care. They didn't care who won. I mean, they might have had a preference, but they didn't think that one was going to leave them homeless over the other. And again, these are self-made millionaires, so people can't say like, well, yeah, it's easy for them. Like, no, it's because they've already figured out the combination, and they've figured out the work ethic that it takes to reach that level, and they know that no matter what, they're going to keep applying that and keep reaching that level. And that's just the mindset you have to have no matter what. I don't care if you're I don't care what job you have, what occupation you have. Like if that single job, that single skill defines you, okay, well use the work ethic that it took to find that skill, apply it to another skill, and go from there. I mean, it's just
Ultimately, you can't worry about what you can't control, so you have to
no,
double down on the things you can control and
no.
what makes you happy. So,
Every bad situation. I don't want to go. I don't know how much time we have, but every bad situation that ever happened in my life led to the best things that have ever happened in my life. I've been divorced. Anyone who's been through a divorce sucks. And you know what I do now? Anytime I have a friend who's getting divorced, I'm like, oh, congrats. Like, whoa, like, what do you, like, that's not what they expect. I've literally had crying friends talk to me about it, and I've told them, congratulations. Like, what are you talking about? Like, why are you congratulating me? Like, everyone deserves to be with someone that makes them happy. I'm like, you weren't making them happy, and if you weren't making them happy, you can't be happy. I said, so they just helped you out. They literally put you on a path to where you can go find someone that makes you happy. Like, they weren't the right ones for you. Now they've made a decision that allows you to find the right person. Congratulations, they made it easy for you. I didn't look at it that way when it happened to me. But then, because of my divorce, and we, we just weren't right for each other. There's no, well, whose fault was it? It was no one's fault. We just weren't right. So then I was able to go find the person who is right for me, and now I have beautiful kids and a life that I never imagined because that really bad thing allowed me to go find this really good thing for not bad person good person. I'm saying like this really bad situation allowed me to get into a situation that was better for me, and I just refuse to look at any negative situation any differently. Every negative situation, I promise you, I'm going to find a way to spin it to where I know that it's going to lead to the best that ever happened to me.
I'm always a believer adversity brings out the best in people. And then I also wonder if Leighton would have let this conversation take place for this long had you not been able to knock him out at any second. So, um, but a little controversial for Leighton's Market Street Media show, but no, Leighton says we're all good. So I cannot bring you on without talking a little bit of UFC. Obviously, a huge weekend this weekend. We've got Conor McGregor back in the octagon. It's been a year. Last time we saw him, 42nd fight. What are your thoughts on this weekend?
I think Conor wins. Just you can't bet against Conor. Like even you just the only time I say you can't. Even with Khabib, like I told everyone, I'm like every inch of me says Khabib's going to win. But if you're a bettor, like Conor's still a smart bet because you just don't know what he's going to do. I think this is going to be really. I've said this for years. Then Ariel Helwani said it, so Ariel's a lot cooler than me, so I won't get any credit for it. But I think Conor McGregor is the most underrated fighter in the UFC when it comes to skill. Like what in the world? Like how is he underrated? He's overrated. In fans' eyes, he's overrated because of the media hype and this and that. But people don't truly appreciate how skilled he actually is. And if anything, go watch the Khabib fight. Khabib is in my opinion the greatest fighter to ever live, to ever fight. I think Khabib is just remarkable. I think he's the greatest of all time. I think it's going to be hard for anyone else to ever steal that from him. And considering that, to watch him take Conor down and Conor get back up, it just raised my respect for Conor McGregor's skill level so much because I didn't expect that. Um, I see Conor winning. I think Poirier's and what's crazy is I think Dustin Poirier is amazing. I think Dustin Poirier is one of the greatest fighters of all time. But Conor's just Conor, and all signs point to that this is the best Conor we've ever seen, and that's coming from I know his coach, I know John Kavanaugh, I know his training partners, I know his nutritionist Tristan Kennedy, and I just know the effort that's gone into this camp, and all signs point to that this is the best Conor McGregor anyone's ever seen.
We can't close down the show without talking about Max Holloway last weekend. Your client, for those of you all that don't know, he set a brand new UFC record for the most significant strikes, which was previously held by himself, right?
Yeah.
And he did it like in the fourth round.
Yeah, it was unreal. So I worked with Max for many fights for several years. So now I don't have the fight week capacity with him. I don't work in that capacity. But Max is one of my best friends, and as one of my best friends, I think he's one of the greatest of all time. And Khabib Nurmagomedov said he thinks Max will end up becoming the greatest of all time. He thinks Max has that in him.
Wow.
And that's amazing. So that's almost like Michael Jordan saying, you know what, I think LeBron might be better. Like that would be
Unheard
crazy.
of, yeah.
And I have a horrible bias when it comes to Max. Like, don't ever ask me who you think who do you think is going to win, or if there's a close fight. If Max is in a close fight, I'm going to say Max. I cannot separate myself from that bias. But even I'm constantly surprised by what this dude does. It's mind blowing to me to watch him go out there and the things he does. He does everything. The things he does is done perfectly, but no coach is going to coach you to do those things. Like, only Max Holloway can get by with some of those things, and he's just developed this crazy unique style that mixed with the intangibles, mixed with the attributes that you can't learn, the toughness, the heart, the love for fighting, mixed with those things, just creates this animal. I mean, it's unreal watching him fight. And as a person, he's literally one of the best humans you will ever meet. And then you see him out there like pointing to the ground and
Swagger,
just
yeah.
going crazy, like letting this guy punch him, and you sit there and think, well, like why would he do that? Like, is it a cockiness, or is it? No, honestly, I think he was bored. Like, I genuinely think he was bored, and he just wanted to add a little bit of adversity and hoping that it pulled things up. That's a crazy human being. I mean, it really is. And Max is everything. Max is everything that you want in the sport. I mean, he really is. Fighting is a weird sport anyway. Like, a lot of parents are going to hesitate to ever tell their kid, go watch fighting. Especially because you want them to have good role models. You want to have, like, Max is the one that you would be very proud of your son or daughter following. Like, you would be very proud of them looking up to and achieving that. So he just ticks every box for really every fan. If you're solely a fight fan, you love the blood, you love the violence, Max is your guy. If you want a fighter who has a good attitude and who is a good ambassador for the sport and is a good sport even when he does lose, the few times he loses, Max is your guy. If you're a parent who just wants a good role model and you want someone that your kids can aspire to be, Max is your guy. I mean, he's just he is the fans fighter.
Love it, dude. Well, thanks for coming back on and reaching out and being willing to help people talk with New Year's resolutions and the nutrition rush that is January. So, any closing statements?
No, I mean, follow me on Instagram. It's a shameless plug, but
Yep.
I put tons of information on. I had this is like my second or third person who just reached out to me and said that they've lost 100 pounds in a year just following my Instagram. They're not clients. I'd never met them before, never talked to them. They literally just follow the things that I put on Instagram. They've lost 100 pounds in 2020. 3 people.
Do you want to plug your Venmo account then?
Nah. So they, I literally put out information on my Instagram with the goal. Some of it's funny, and some of it's really cute kids. But really, the goal of my Instagram is, hey, what information can I provide that I know if people never pay me a dime and all they do is click that follow button, they're going to get results, because I actually care about the industry and I care about people's future. I care about these things, and the best way to show how much you care is to just make it available for everyone.
It's the whole Gary V mindset.
It really is.
So that is at Tyler Minton Nutrition on Instagram. I know that's his social media outlet of choice. So be sure and add him on there. Tyler, once again, thanks for coming on. I'm sure we'll have you back on down the road. So until then, better everyday listeners. We'll see you next week.